If you are going to bed tonight with something hard waiting in the morning, this prayer is for you. Find somewhere comfortable. Close your eyes. The night is not empty. To stay with these words a little longer, you can use YouTube's loop feature. Let's begin quietly. Psalm 91, verses 1 to 4, and 9 to 11. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. Surely He will save you from the fowler's snare and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. If you say, "The Lord is my refuge," and you make the Most High your dwelling, no harm will overtake you, no disaster will come near your tent. For He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. The light has gone out in the room where you are. Or maybe it is still on. Just barely, just enough to see the ceiling. And you are waiting for the courage to reach over and turn it off, because the dark feels heavier tonight than it should. Because tomorrow is sitting just on the other side of it. Because something is waiting in the morning, and you have been thinking about it ever since your head touched the pillow, and the thinking has not made it smaller. It has made it larger. It has given it more edges. And now here you are, in the quiet that is not quite quiet, in the dark that is not quite dark, in the place between the day that exhausted you and the morning that is already beginning to press. You have arrived at the night, and I am already here. This is the first thing I want you to hear before anything else reaches you tonight. The night is not empty. I have been waiting in it. I was here before you turned off the light, before your breathing slowed, before your mind began its list of everything tomorrow will ask of you. I was here when the room went quiet. I am the one the psalmist was writing about. The shelter of the Most High, the shadow of the Almighty. That shelter is not a metaphor. It is a room. And you are in it right now, whether you can feel it or not. Hear what was just read. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. Not the one who arrives perfectly. Not the one who has finished all their worrying. Not the one who has already made peace with tomorrow. The one who dwells. The word is about where you live, not how you arrived. You came to bed tonight carrying what you carry. The weight of the thing you cannot control, the question that has no answer yet, the tomorrow you did not ask for. And the shelter is available to you here, in this condition, in this hour, with all of that still on your chest. The shadow of the Almighty falls over you now. Your shoulders can receive it now. I know what you brought to bed tonight. I know the shape of the thing you have been turning over in your mind since before dinner, since before the last thing you said to anyone, since you woke up this morning and remembered what today was becoming. I know the thing you have rehearsed, what you will say, what might be said to you, how tomorrow could go wrong, how much is riding on the morning you cannot stop from arriving. I know the way the mind does this, how it circles, how it returns to the same set of facts and tries to arrange them into a version that feels survivable. I know you have been arranging them all evening. You can stop arranging them now. The morning will come whether you have arranged them or not, and I will be in it when it does. But that is not yet. That is the morning. This is the night. And the night has something to give you that the morning cannot, not because the morning is lesser, but because what I give in the dark is given differently than what I give in the light. The night is the place where trust is learned without seeing. It is the place where rest becomes an act of the will. It is the place where the shelter becomes real to the body even when the mind is still finishing its arguments. So come into the shelter. Not tomorrow. Now. The psalm says, I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. It is a declaration made in the present tense. Not I will eventually trust. Not I used to trust. I will say, right now, in this moment, before anything has been resolved, He is my refuge. The psalmist was not writing from a place of safety already achieved. He was writing from a place of danger still present, naming the shelter out loud so that his own ears could hear it. Say it now, even quietly, even without feeling it yet. He is my refuge. Let the words do what they are designed to do. They are not requesting comfort. They are constructing it. Let me tell you what the shelter looks like from the inside. The psalmist writes that God will save you from the fowler's snare. You know what a fowler is. Someone who catches birds. The snare is not obvious. It is not noisy. It does not announce itself as a trap. It is laid in the place where the bird walks naturally, where the ground looks ordinary, where nothing signals danger until the wire closes. The worry you have been carrying tonight about tomorrow is not the danger itself. It is the snare. The thing that wires around your mind and holds it to a set of worst-case scenarios that are not yet real. And the promise of this psalm is not that there is no snare in the path. It is that you will be saved from it. That the wire will not close around you. That something is watching the ground before your feet, clearing it before you arrive. You do not need to see the path clearly tonight. You need to trust the one who walks it before you do. The psalmist writes that God will save you from the deadly pestilence, the unseen harm that moves through air, through systems, through things no one can see coming. This is the category of what lies ahead that frightens you most, is it not? Not the things you can plan for. The things you cannot see. The outcomes that depend on people and weather and timing and 10,000 factors that are outside your hands. The pestilence of the future. The things that could go wrong that you have not yet imagined. And the promise is the same. Saved from it. Not because nothing will go wrong, but because the one who made the air is not surprised by what moves through it. Hear this, beloved. Tomorrow is not outside God's knowledge. It is not an event He is waiting to respond to. He is already there. He is in the morning before you arrive at it, the same way He is in the night before you arrived at this moment. You did not catch Him off guard tonight. You did not enter this night before He settled it. and you will not enter tomorrow before he has prepared it. Now the psalm gives you the most tender image. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. Stop for a moment and let this land, because this image is not casual. The writer is describing a bird sheltering its young. The image is a mother bird, a hen, perhaps, or a great eagle, drawing her chick under her wing during the night, during a storm, during a moment of danger the chick cannot understand. The chick does not know what is coming. The chick only knows that the warmth is there, and the feathers are thick, and the heartbeat of the mother is steady above it. The chick does not need to understand the storm. It needs to be under the wing. You are under the wing tonight. The warmth above you is the warmth of the one who made warmth. The steadiness you feel, or the steadiness you are being invited to feel, even if you have not felt it yet tonight, is the steadiness of the one who does not panic at tomorrow the way you have been panicking. He has seen tomorrow. He is not leaning forward in concern. He is the shelter, which means he is not in motion. He is already there, already still, already holding the space where the morning will open. And his faithfulness, hear this, is your shield and your rampart, not your faith. His faithfulness. This is important because on a night like this, you may not feel particularly faithful. You may feel like your trust is thinner than it should be, like your peace has run out before the evening did, like you have prayed about what tomorrow holds and nothing has loosened. His faithfulness does not depend on the quality of yours tonight. The shield is in place. The rampart is built. These are not things you construct by the quality of your trust. They are things he maintains by the quality of his. And his does not thin. It does not run out. It has held every night you have ever been afraid, and it is holding this one. Now the psalm narrows further. If you say, "The Lord is my refuge," and you make the Most High your dwelling, no harm will overtake you. No disaster will come near your tent. Make the Most High your dwelling. Not visit. Not occasionally arrive. Dwell, which means live here. Stay. Return so often that this becomes where you are from. The shelter is not a place you go to in crisis and leave when the crisis passes. It is the permanent address. It is where you live. And when you live there, when you have made it your dwelling, the promise carries with it a protection that is not conditional on what tomorrow holds. No harm will overtake you, not because nothing hard will happen, but because nothing that happens will be outside the shelter. Every hard thing that comes into the place where you already live with God. There is no hard morning that arrives outside the walls. The morning you fear is inside the walls. You just cannot see the walls from where you are standing. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. In all your ways, not in the ways you have prayed about specifically, not in the situations you remembered to hand over, not in the dangers you had the foresight to anticipate. All. Every road you walk tomorrow, every room you enter, every conversation you have not scripted, every outcome you have not been able to predict, He has already commanded the angels concerning you in all of those ways, not just the ones you have listed. This is not poetry. This is government. The angels have been commanded. The command is already issued. The guard is already in position. You are going into tomorrow with an escort you cannot see and a shelter that does not require your full belief to function, the same way a building does not require the occupant to believe in its walls for them to hold. The walls are holding, beloved. They are holding right now. Now let me narrow this shelter all the way down to the room you are in. The room you are in tonight is a specific room. A specific mattress, a specific ceiling, a specific air. And it is inside the shelter, not adjacent to it. Inside it. The shelter is not somewhere else you need to travel to. It is the room you are already lying in, seen from the right angle, from God's angle, from the angle of the one who commanded the angels and said, "Guard that one, that room, that night, that coming morning." Your specific tomorrow, the specific thing that is sitting on your chest right now, is inside the shelter. It is not outside the walls waiting to ambush you in the morning. It is within the territory where the command has been given. The angels have been dispatched to the places tomorrow will take you. You are not being sent out unaccompanied into an open field. You are being sent out from a shelter that moves with you, that extends over every road you will walk, that has been there waiting at every turning before you arrive. You do not need to hold the shelter together tonight. You are in it. Rest inside it. The narrowing is almost complete. I have brought you from the wide night, from the dark outside your window and the dark inside your chest, to the psalm, to the shelter, to the feathers, to the angels commanded, to your specific room, to your specific tomorrow already inside the territory of the promise. And now I want to bring you to one more place, the innermost place. The place the psalmist is pointing at when he says the secret place of the Most High. There is a place inside the shelter that is quieter than the rest of it. The psalmist calls it the secret place, which does not mean hidden or inaccessible, but intimate, interior, the place where the close presence leaves. The outer courts of the shelter have their angels and their ramparts and their shields. But the secret place is the room where God's own presence is the nearest. It is the place you find when you stop arranging the facts of tomorrow and simply breathe in the dark and let the one who holds tomorrow hold you. Go there now. Not with words, not with more thinking, just with a breath and the decision to stop fighting for a version of tomorrow that you can survive. The version of tomorrow that is survivable is already prepared. I am not asking you to plan it or trust it or even feel good about it. I am asking you to breathe and let the secret place hold you, the way the hen holds the chick. Not explaining, not resolving, just sheltering. Let the feathers fall. The warmth that does not come from your own effort is doing what it has been waiting all evening to do. Let your mind release the arguments it has been holding since dinner, the arrangements it has been testing, the scenarios it has been auditing. The shelter holds regardless of whether your mind has finished its work. The walls do not wait for your mind to agree to them. They stand because he who commanded them is faithful, not because you are. Tomorrow will come. That is true. It will ask things of you. That is also true. But it will not come at you from outside the shelter. It will come to you inside it. And before it comes to you, it will come to the captain who has already gone ahead. That is what the rest of this night is for. There is more to tell you before the morning, about what is with you that you cannot see, about what has been holding while you have been lying here, about who went ahead of you down the road you were afraid of. There is a whole night of this. You do not need to take it all in at once. For now, the feathers are over you. The faithfulness is your shield. The angels have been commanded. The shelter holds, and you are in it. Let this first movement carry you until the next begins. Let your breathing slow. Let the ceiling above you become less important than the shelter around you. You came to bed tonight carrying what you carry. The shelter receives it. The shelter receives you. All of you, tomorrow and all, afraid and all, with the list unfinished and the peace not yet arrived and the faith thinner than you wished it were. The shadow of the Almighty is wide enough to cover all of that. Rest now in the first watch of the night. The second is coming. And in the second, I will show you what is with you that your eyes have not yet been opened to see. There are more of us on this hill than you know. And when you see them, the army that frightened you will look very different. But that is for the second watch. For now, dwell in the shelter, in the shadow, in the feathers, in the faithfulness that is your shield, not because you have earned it, but because he maintains it, on this night and for the morning. Sleep, beloved, in the shelter of the Most High. The walls are holding. The angels have been commanded. You are not in the dark alone. Second Kings 6, verses 15 to 17. When the servant of the man of God got up and went out early in the morning, an army with horses and chariots had surrounded the city. "Oh no, my lord, what shall we do?" the servant asked. "Don't be afraid," the prophet answered. "Those who are with us are more than those who are with them." And Elisha prayed, "Open his eyes, Lord, so that he may see." Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. Do you know how many are with you tonight? Not as a question that needs an answer right now, as a question that wants to open something in you. A door in the back of your mind that the fear of tomorrow has been standing in front of, keeping shut. Because the fear is real and the door is also real, and what is on the other side of the door is what I want to show you in this second watch of the night. You have been calculating your odds alone. That is what the mind does in the dark when tomorrow is large. It counts what is visible. It measures the resources on hand. It assesses the army on the hill. And the army is real. The thing you are facing is real. The difficulty of it is not imagined. The weight of what will be asked of you is genuine. And none of that is what I am here to argue with. I am not here tonight to tell you the army is not there. I am here to tell you what else is there that your eyes have not yet been trained to see. There was a man once whose servant went out in the morning and saw what frightened him. His name was Elisha, and he was staying in a city called Dothan, and the king of Aram had discovered where he was. Because Elisha had been telling the king of Israel what the Aramean army was planning, and the Aramean king was furious about it, and he sent horses and chariots and a strong army to surround Dothan in the night. While Elisha slept, the army moved into position. While the city was quiet and the fires were banked, and the watchmen were yawning on the walls, the Aramean forces surrounded the whole perimeter. By the time first light came, they were already in place. The servant didn't know. He went out early in the morning, perhaps for water or for wood, perhaps just because the day was beginning and there were ordinary things to do. And he saw them. Horses and chariots and a great army surrounding the city on every side. He ran back inside and he said, "Oh no, my lord. What shall we do?" He was not overreacting. The army was there. His assessment of the situation was accurate. He had counted what was visible, and the count was not in their favor. He was afraid because fear was the reasonable response to what his eyes could see. And I want you to hear this before anything else in this movement. The servant's fear was not a failure of faith. It was a failure of sight. And that is a different problem entirely, with a different solution. Elisha looked at the same hills and said, "Don't be afraid. Those who are with us are more than those who are with them." The servant looked at him. The same hills, the same army, the same morning. And Elisha said more. This was not encouragement designed to help the servant feel better about a difficult situation. This was a statement of arithmetic, a numerical claim. More with us than with them. And the servant could not yet see what made the arithmetic work. Then Elisha prayed. And this prayer is one of the most specific prayers in the scripture. Not a long prayer, not an elaborate one, not a prayer that explained the situation or listed the need or negotiated with God about outcomes. 4 words in the original language. Open his eyes, Lord. The eyes were already functioning. They had already seen the Aramean army accurately. What they could not see was the layer behind the layer. The reality beneath the visible reality. The response that had already been mounted before the servant knew there was a threat. And the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. Full. That is the word. Not a few. Not a contingent, a squad, a representative force. The hills were full of them. The fire was everywhere. The chariots were already in position. Not scrambling to respond to the Aramean army, not newly arrived because of Elisha's prayer, already there, already arranged, already waiting. The servant's prayer did not summon them. The opening of the servant's eyes revealed them. They had been there all along. The servant simply could not see them until the Lord opened his eyes. Now let me sit with you inside that moment. Not move past it. Sit inside it. The servant is standing in the same place he was standing when he first saw the Aramean army. Nothing has moved. The Aramean horses are still there. The Aramean chariots are still positioned on every side. The city is still surrounded. The situation has not changed at all in the external world. What has changed is the layer the servant can see. He is looking at the same hills, and now he sees both armies. The one that came to threaten, and the one that was already there before the threat arrived. This is what I want to settle in you, here in the second watch of the night. The hills around your life right now. The hills where the difficulty sits, where the thing you are walking toward has taken position, where the army of what could go wrong has arranged itself while you were trying to sleep. Those hills are not only occupied by what frightens you. They have never been occupied only by what frightens you. There is a company on those hills that arrived before the difficulty did. Before your specific tomorrow became a threat, the response was already in position. Before you lay down tonight knowing what the morning holds, the arrangement was already made. You have been looking at the army. I want to open your eyes to the hills. This is not a metaphor dressed up as prayer. This is an account of how things actually are. The same way 2 Kings chapter 6 is an account of how things actually were in Dothan that morning. He saw the situation accurately. He saw half of it. The half he could not see was larger than the half he could. And Elisha was not surprised by either half. Elisha already knew what was on the hills. He had not panicked when the servant ran back inside, because he was not looking at the same limited picture the servant was looking at. He was already living inside the full arithmetic. I want you to leave inside the full arithmetic tonight. You have counted what is visible, the difficulty of what lies ahead, the gap between what will be asked and what you feel equipped to give, the uncertainty of the outcome, the number of things that could go wrong in how many different directions. You have done this counting carefully, probably several times, probably since earlier today, and the count has not come out in your favor because you have been counting only one army. The visible one. The one that arrived on the hill while you were trying to sleep. You have not been counting mine. So let me open your eyes to what is on the hills. There are horses and chariots of fire around your life tonight. Not because I am reassuring you, because it is true. Because the same God who filled the hills around Dothan is the God who attends to the ones he has commanded his angels concerning. And that command was spoken over you before tonight began, before the difficulty of tomorrow assembled itself, before you knew you would need what the morning is going to ask of you. The company was dispatched before the threat arrived. The hills were filled before you saw the army. The servant saw the Aramean army first because it was the visible thing. That is always how it works. The visible fills the vision. The visible is loud, and it has horses, and it surrounds the perimeter in a way that is impossible to miss at first light. And the invisible, the company on the hills, the fire on the hills, the horses and chariots that belong to a different army entirely. The invisible is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not position itself in a way that makes it easy to count. It requires the specific prayer, "Lord, open his eyes so that he may see." That prayer is being prayed over you right now, in this moment, in this second watch of the night when your eyes are heavy and your mind has been running its arithmetic alone. Open his eyes. Open her eyes. Let them see the hills. Now I want to deepen this. Let me go back inside the servant's moment of sight, because there is more in it than we have drawn out yet. When the servant's eyes were opened, he saw the hills full. Full. Every part of the hills. Not one sector of the hills, not the eastern face, not a partial arrangement that gave a partial response. Full. The Lord's response to the army that surrounded Dothan was not a matching of forces. It was an overwhelming of forces. The Aramean army was large enough to surround the whole city. The army the servant saw on the hills was large enough to fill the hills that surrounded the whole city. Every level of the threat had a corresponding and exceeding level of response. Every place the enemy had positioned itself, there was already a greater positioning. Think about the ground you are walking toward tomorrow. Think about what is threatening it. What is surrounding the day you are walking into? How many things could go wrong in how many different directions? Now understand, the response is not a matching of dimensions. It is a filling of the hills. Every dimension of what threatens tomorrow has a corresponding and exceeding presence of what I have already positioned. The hills are full, not partially full. Full. The servant saw horses and chariots of fire. Fire. This is not a coincidence of image. Fire is the element of God's manifest presence throughout the Scripture. The burning bush, the pillar of fire in the desert, the fire that fell on Elijah's altar on Carmel, the tongues of fire at Pentecost. The chariots on the hills were not ordinary military equipment. They were the fire of God's own presence taking the form of war readiness. They were the nearness of God made into the shape of protection. What the servant saw was not a second army arriving to help. He saw that God himself, in his blazing nearness, had taken the posture of a defender. God's nearness is fire, and the fire was on the hills. Now sit inside this. The hills around your tomorrow are ringed with the fire of God's nearness. Not metaphorically, not as a concept you must believe in, but as the actual state of the territory. The same God whose nearness set a bush on fire in the desert and lit a pillar in the wilderness and fell on Elijah's offering has taken the posture of a defender around the things you are walking toward. The fire is there, on the hills, around the difficult morning, around the thing that will ask of you, around the uncertainty and the outcome and the 10,000 variables you cannot control. God's nearness surrounds your tomorrow. The fire is already on the hills. Now go deeper still. The servant saw the fire and the horses and the chariots. But what he did not need to do, what Elisha did not invite him to do, was understand the strategy. He did not need to know the plan. He did not need to know how the chariots of fire would respond to the Aramean army, whether they would engage in battle or in some other way, what the sequence of events would be, what the morning would look like after the threat had been addressed. All he needed to see was that they were there. The sight was the comfort. The knowing was the rest. Those who are with us are more than those who are with them. That was sufficient. That was everything. You do not need to know tonight how God is going to work in tomorrow. You do not need to see the strategy, the sequence, the specific way the difficult morning will be navigated. You need to know what the servant came to know when his eyes were opened. The hills are not empty. What I have positioned is greater than what threatens you. The fire is on the hills. Those who are with you are more than those who are with them. That is sufficient. That is everything. Rest inside that knowing for a moment before the next deepening. The arithmetic is settled. More with you than against you. Not because you are especially deserving of protection, not because you have prayed the right prayers or held the right posture of faith, not because you have come to bed with your theology perfectly organized. The arithmetic is settled because the hills belong to the Lord, and the Lord fills them as He chooses. The servant's faith did not fill the hills with horses and chariots. Elisha's righteousness did not fill the hills with fire. God filled the hills before either of them saw them. The seeing did not create the reality. The seeing only caught up with the reality that had been true all along. The hills around your life have been full all along. You have been looking at the Aramean army because it was visible. You have been counting the difficulty because it is loud and it has horses, and it has arrived at the perimeter of what lies ahead while you were trying to sleep. But the hills have been full the entire time you were counting. The fire was there while you were making your list. The chariots were positioned while you were rehearsing the difficult conversation and the hard meeting and the outcome you cannot predict. You just couldn't see them. So here is what I want you to do with the second watch of this night. I want you to let your eyes be opened. Not wide open, not into alertness or vigilance, but in the way the servant's eyes were opened. Still, steady, simply receiving what is true. You do not need to feel the chariots of fire to receive their reality. The servant did not need to touch them. He only needed to see them. And seeing them was enough to change the entire calculation. The arithmetic shifted the moment his eyes were opened. The hills were full. The fear did not vanish. But the basis for the fear was revealed as incomplete. He had been doing arithmetic with half the numbers. Let the full arithmetic settle in you now. Those who are with you tonight, on the hills around your tomorrow, in the space between your bed and the morning you are walking toward, are more than those who are with whatever threatens you. This is not a sentiment. It is the same arithmetic Elisha stated as a calm fact to a frightened servant, and it is the arithmetic that governs your specific night and your specific morning and your specific hills. The hills are full. The fire is there. The company that arrived before the threat did is already in position. And the God who prays open his eyes, Lord over the frightened servant, is the same God praying it over you in this second watch. Not to wake you into alertness, but to open your perception in the quiet of the night to what has been surrounding your life since before you knew you would need it. You are not alone on a plain. You are on a hill surrounded by fire. Let that be what carries you through this second watch and into the third. Because in the third watch, in the midnight of the night, there is something else to show you. Something that happened to two men on a prison floor in the deepest dark of the night, before the foundations shook and the chains fell and the doors swung open. Two men who had nothing left but a song. And what that song did at midnight is what I want to give you next. But for now, the hills are full. The fire is real. The servant saw it, and it was enough. Close your eyes, and let the hills fill behind them. Acts 16, verses 23 to 26. After they had been severely flogged, they were thrown into prison, and the jailer was commanded to guard them carefully. When he received these orders, he put them in the inner cell and fastened their feet in the stocks. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the other prisoners were listening to them. Suddenly there was such a violent earthquake that the foundations of the prison were shaken. At once all the prison doors flew open, and everyone's chains came loose. This is the middle of the night, not the beginning, which still has the memory of evening in it. Not the end, which already carries the first suggestion of morning. This is the middle, the place the night arrives at when the busyness of falling asleep is finished, and the business of waking is not yet begun. The deepest watch. The long silence that is different from all the other silences of the day, because there is nothing to do inside it. No decisions to make. No actions available. Only the dark and the waiting and the sound of your own breathing and whatever you are carrying. You are still carrying something, I know. The weight you brought to bed has not left while you slept. It has settled into the quiet with you, the way weight does in the night. It does not shrink, but it does change shape. In the daylight it was urgent. In the long middle of the night it is simply heavy. The urgency has been replaced by the heaviness, and sometimes the heaviness is harder to bear than the urgency was, because at least with urgency there was something to do. Here in the midnight there is only lying still with what you cannot change before morning. This is where I meet you, in the still and heavy middle. And I want to tell you something about this hour before anything else. Before I take you anywhere or show you anything or name what is true. This hour has a history. The midnight has been the hour of the extraordinary more often than any other watch in the Scripture. Not the morning, which is bright and certain and full of what is already visible. The midnight, when nothing seems possible, and the human eye can see nothing and the mind has run out of useful motion. The midnight is the hour where God has repeatedly, specifically, conspicuously chosen to act. He did it for two men on a prison floor in a city called Philippi. These were not men who had arrived at that prison by accident. They had been there on purpose. They had been preaching, and the preaching had cost them. The text is not gentle about what happened before the midnight. They were severely flogged. That is the word the Scripture uses. Not roughed up. Not treated harshly. Severely flogged. The kind of beating that leaves a man unable to stand without pain, unable to find a position that does not hurt, the kind that makes the night itself a continuation of the assault, because there is nowhere to put the body that does not remind it of what was done to it. Then they were thrown into the inner cell. Not the ordinary cell, but the inner one, the deepest room, the place from which escape is most impossible. And their feet were fastened in the stocks. Beaten, imprisoned, immobilized. In the deepest room of the darkest building in a city that had just turned against them. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. Read that again slowly. Not after the beating was healed. Not after they were moved to a better cell. Not after any situation had changed or any help had arrived or any evidence of God's attention had been given. In the inner cell, feet in the stocks, about midnight, praying and singing. This is the moment I want to hold the night open on. Not the earthquake, not the chains falling, not the doors flying open. Before any of that, the song in the dark, in the pain, in the deepest room of the worst night of their imprisonment, with their feet locked and the morning not yet visible. The song came before the shaking. This is not a small thing. Everything in us, everything in the human condition, tells us to sing after, to praise after the breakthrough, to worship after the deliverance, to give thanks when the morning has arrived and the outcome is visible, and the chains are off and the proof is there that God was present. This is the natural sequence. Evidence, then gratitude. Change, then response. Mourning, then song. Paul and Silas reversed the sequence. They sang before the evidence, before the earthquake, before the shaking, before one chain moved or one door opened or one thing in their situation changed at all. They sang to the God who had not yet done the thing they needed, in a room they could not leave, at the hour when the human body is most depleted and the human spirit most likely to go silent. They sang. And I want you to understand something about what that song was. It was not a performance of peace they did not feel. It was not a spiritual exercise they had learned to do in hard moments to make the moments more bearable. It was not the prayer of men who had already accepted their circumstances and made a settled peace with imprisonment. The text gives us the other prisoners listening, which means the song was audible, which means it carried something into the air of that prison that the other prisoners, also in chains, in the same midnight, could hear and could not stop listening to. The song was the act of singing toward God before the evidence arrived. Paul and Silas did not prove he was listening by feeling him near. They proved it by singing toward him as though he were, by making the act of praise before the proof, by treating the midnight as if the one who holds the morning were already attending to it. And the midnight received that act and held it in the foundations of the building. The song moved through the walls. It reached what was underneath, and what was underneath received it. Now let the time fold. The midnight of Philippi and your midnight tonight are the same hour, held in the same hands. Different prison, different chains, different darkness, but the same middle watch, the same God listening, the same weight that will not lighten before dawn without help from somewhere beyond the inner cell. The time that passed between that prison floor and the ceiling of the room where you are lying does not change the address of the prayer. Paul and Silas prayed to the God who is equally present tonight, equally awake, equally capable of hearing what is being said in the deepest room at the worst hour, when the stocks have been fastened and the morning has not yet come. Your midnight and theirs, the same hour, the same God, the same watching. What were they singing? The text calls them hymns, the same word used for the Psalms, which means Paul and Silas were almost certainly singing the songs they had been raised on, the prayers of the tradition they had inherited, the words that had been given to the people of God precisely for the nights when human words ran out. They were singing what had been written for this. The Psalms were written for the inner cell. They were not written for the comfortable moments when praise is easy and the morning is already visible. They were written for the people who needed to say something to God in the dark before anything had been resolved, who needed a language for the midnight that was already composed and could be sung without requiring the singer to have everything figured out first. You may not have a song tonight. The weight may have made the singing feel impossible. The midnight may have flattened the music out of you. That is acceptable. The prayer does not require the song to be audible. What it requires is the same act Paul and Silas made. The act of turning toward God before the evidence, of addressing the one who holds the morning even before the morning has moved. That act does not require sound. It can be made in breath. It can be made in the quiet decision to remain turned toward Him in the dark rather than turned away. It is enough. He hears what is offered in the deepest watch. Now the shaking. Suddenly there was such a violent earthquake that the foundations of the prison were shaken. The earthquake did not arrive slowly. The text says suddenly. The Greek word means instantly, without warning in a moment. There was the song and the prayer and the long dark of the inner cell. And then suddenly the foundation moved. The foundations. Not the walls first. Not the doors first. The foundations. The deepest structural element of the building, the part that is set in the earth, the part that determines the stability of everything above it. When the foundations of a prison shake, everything built on them becomes uncertain. The walls that held become less reliable. The locks that fastened the doors work differently when the frame around them has moved. The chains that held the prisoners were held by rings set in stone, and the stone had moved. At once all the prison doors flew open, and everyone's chains came loose. Everyone, not just Paul and Silas, not just the ones who had been singing. Every prisoner in the building, every man in chains in every cell of that inner prison had his chains loosed at the same midnight that the two beaten men in stocks were singing. The song that reached the foundations through the prayer of two men freed every person who had been listening to it. Whether they had been praying or not, whether they had joined the singing or merely heard it, whether they had faith or simply chains. This is extraordinary, and I want you to hear it specifically. The song of Paul and Silas moved through walls. The prayer that rose from two men in an inner cell at midnight reached foundations that neither of them could touch with their hands, in a building they could not leave, in a city that had already decided they were a problem. The prayer exceeded the prison. It moved through the stone. It reached the earth beneath the building, and the earth moved in response. And when it did, the doors of every room swung open and the chains of every prisoner, not just the singers, fell away. Your midnight prayer tonight does the same. Not a metaphor. An extrapolation from what the text establishes about the nature of prayer in the deepest watch. What you say to God in the middle of the night in the inner room of your difficulty is not contained by the difficulty. It does not stay inside the problem. It moves. It reaches through the walls of the thing that has you fastened and held, and unable to move forward, and it reaches what is underneath. The foundations, the deep structures. And when it reaches the foundations, things move. You may not feel the shaking tonight. The earthquake may not come before morning. For Paul and Silas, it came suddenly, in a moment, without build-up. But the song came first. The prayer came first. The midnight came first. And it was in the midnight, before any evidence of movement, that the act was made of turning toward God as though he were attending, which he was. He is capable of moving what is underneath your tomorrow. The thing that has it locked is not the final structure. The foundations that hold the difficulty in place are not unmovable. What was built to hold you in place has a foundation, and the foundation is subject to the God who shook the earth under Philippi at midnight. The same God, the same midnight, the same capacity. Sing if you can. Pray if you cannot sing. Breathe if you cannot pray. And know that even the breath, offered in the midnight with honest weight in the chest and honest fear of tomorrow, still sitting there, is heard. It is heard by the one who was listening in the inner cell. It is heard by the one who does not require the morning to answer what the night asks. Now let the time fold back. Paul and Silas did not know, when they began singing, that the earthquake was coming. They were not singing as a technique to produce an earthquake. They were singing because the God they knew was worth singing to at midnight before they knew what would happen at midnight. And then the morning came, not the morning they had expected, not the morning they had planned, but a morning preceded by an earthquake and a warden on his knees, and a story that reached every city that came after Philippi. They did not know the morning when they sang. They only knew the God. You do not know the morning either. You do not know what tomorrow holds past the thing you are afraid of. You do not know what will come after it. What will open? What will fall away? What the morning will actually look like when you arrive at it with the night's weight already given, and the prayer already spoken, and the song already in the air. But you know the God, and the God who listened at midnight in Philippi is listening at midnight in the room where you are lying. The foundations under your tomorrow are subject to him. The inner cell is not the last room. The stocks do not determine the morning. Something is possible at midnight that was not possible at noon. Not because the midnight is more powerful, but because the midnight is the hour when the act of turning toward God before the evidence is most tested and most true. The act that was made at midnight in Philippi is the act available to you now, in your own middle watch, in your own long dark, with your own weight and your own tomorrow still unresolved. He is worth addressing at midnight. He hears what is spoken in the deepest room. He is awake in the watch that feels most abandoned by evidence. And he is capable of moving what is underneath before dawn arrives. Rest in the middle of the night, beloved. The song does not have to be sung out loud. Let it be the quiet agreement of your breathing with the truth that he is present, here, now, in the midnight before the morning. Present in the same way he was present in Philippi, awake in the same way he was awake when the earthquake answered the song. The foundations are subject to him. And what comes next in this night, what the fourth watch holds, is the thing this whole night has been building toward. There is a man with a drawn sword at the edge of a city, and his name has not been given, and the word he speaks when Joshua asks which side he is on will change everything you thought you understood about how God goes ahead of you into the mornings you are afraid of. But that is the fourth watch. For now, midnight, the long middle, the song before the shaking. The act of turning toward God before the evidence arrives, which is the act that moves foundations. Let your body go still. Let the breathing slow. Let the weight you have been carrying settle. Not resolved, not removed, but received. Received by the one who is awake in the midnight and who has shown, in a prison in Philippi, that the midnight is precisely the hour he has chosen to act. The foundations are under his hand. Sleep toward the fourth watch, beloved. It is coming. Joshua 5, verses 13 to 15, and Joshua 6, verses 2 to 5. Now when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. Joshua went up to him and asked, "Are you for us or for our enemies?" "Neither," he replied, "but as commander of the army of the Lord I have now come." Then Joshua fell face down to the ground in reverence, and asked him, "What message does my Lord have for his servant?" The commander of the Lord's army replied, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." And Joshua did so. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its king and his fighting men. March around the city once with all the armed men. Do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carry trumpets of ram's horns in front of the ark. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times, with the priests blowing the trumpets. When you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpets, have the whole army give a loud shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse, and the army will go up, everyone straight in. There was an evening before the morning of Jericho. Most people skip to the morning. They go straight to the trumpets, the 7 days, the shout, the walls collapsing. The visible and dramatic thing that everyone tells is the story of Jericho. But before any of that, there was an evening when a man walked toward the city alone, and the city was shut. No one was going in. No one was coming out. The gates were barred and the walls were thick, and the people inside were afraid. The text tells us this elsewhere, that Rahab told the spies that the hearts of the people of Jericho had melted, that they had heard what God had done at the Red Sea, and the dread of Israel had fallen on them. Jericho knew something was coming. The city was sealed. And Joshua walked toward it alone in the evening to look at it. What was he doing? Not attacking, not strategizing, not gathering intelligence in any formal way. He was walking toward the thing that stood between his people and the inheritance they had been promised, looking at it in the failing light, with the weight of the generation he was leading pressing down on him, and the morning he was responsible for not yet arrived. He had been given the command of Israel after Moses. He had led the crossing of the Jordan. He had circumcised the men and kept the Passover. And now there was Jericho, the first city, the fortified city, the city that would need to be taken before any of the rest of the land could be entered. He walked toward it at evening, alone, to look at it. And there was a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. Not a vision, not a dream. A man, standing there on the plain between Joshua and the city, sword already drawn, not at Joshua's throat but not sheathed either. Standing the way a soldier stands when he has already arrived at his position and is waiting for what comes next. Joshua saw him across the ground and walked toward him, because Joshua was the kind of man who walked toward things rather than away from them. He did not freeze. He did not retreat. He walked toward the figure with the drawn sword and asked the question that any military commander would ask of an unknown armed figure on the eve of a campaign. Are you for us or for our enemies? It is a reasonable question. It is the only question that makes sense to ask when you do not yet know whose side the armed figure is on. Are you mine or are you theirs? Which side of this are you aligned with? Because if you are for us, you are welcome, and we need all we can get. And if you are for our enemies, we have a different conversation coming. The answer unmade the question. Neither. Not for you. Not for them. Neither. One word that refused the entire framework of the question, the entire way Joshua had been thinking about the figure in front of him, the entire binary that the coming morning seemed to require. Joshua had come to the plain with a war on his mind. Sides, allies, enemies, the arithmetic of strength. And the figure with the sword answered his question by declining to enter the arithmetic at all. Neither. But as commander of the army of the Lord I have now come. Let that land, beloved. Let it land the way it must have landed on Joshua in the fading light, with Jericho's gates shut tight behind the figure who was speaking to him. neither for you nor against you, but as commander of the army of the Lord, already come. This is the word for what the morning you are afraid of actually looks like from the side of heaven. You have been asking in the long weeks of your worry and your preparation and your lying awake at night, a version of Joshua's question. You have been asking whether God is on your side, whether he is aligned with you against the thing that stands between you and where you are going, whether the weight you are carrying has his attention, whether the morning that frightens you will have his favor. You have been asking in one form or another, are you for us? And the answer is neither. Not because he is absent, not because he is neutral in the way a bystander is neutral, indifferent, uninvested, waiting to see how it goes. The neither of the commander is not the neither of disengagement. It is the neither of a different category entirely. He is not on your side because he is the commander. He is not against your enemies because your enemies are not his primary concern tonight. He has already come, not to join your campaign, but to lead it. Not to sign on as an ally, but to arrive ahead of you as the one whose army fills the hills, whose command governs the morning, whose presence makes the ground you are standing on tonight holy. He is not your ally. He is your commander. That is a different thing, and it changes everything about how you enter tomorrow. An ally comes alongside you and adds their strength to yours. The fight is still fundamentally yours. The ally's strength supplements what you already have. The plan is still yours. The ally's resources support it. You remain the primary agent of the battle, and the ally's involvement is welcome but secondary. When you ask, "Are you for us?" you are asking for an ally. You are asking for God to come alongside what you are already doing and add his strength to the effort you are already running. The commander does not come alongside. The commander comes ahead. The commander arrives before the army. The commander sets the ground on which the battle will be fought, determines the strategy under which the army will operate, issues the orders that the soldiers carry out. The commander is not responding to Joshua's campaign. Joshua's campaign is responding to the commander's presence. The army of the Lord does not exist to support what Israel was planning to do to Jericho. The army of the Lord is what Jericho was facing from before Israel crossed the Jordan. Joshua's army was the visible instrument of a campaign that had already been set in motion by a commander whose authority exceeded any question about sides. This is what the figure's answer was telling Joshua. You have been thinking about this morning as your battle, with God as your potential ally. It is not your battle. It is the commander's campaign, and you are the instrument. And that is not a demotion. That is liberation. Because the moment you understand that the commander has already come, you are no longer the primary agent of the morning that has been given over. You are the one who carries out the orders of the one who has already arrived. You do not need to win tomorrow. You need to follow the one who already has. Joshua fell face down to the ground. This is the right response. Not a strategy session. Not a request for tactical information. Not even a prayer asking for strength. He fell face down, which is the posture of a man who has understood something so large that the only appropriate physical response is to make himself small before it. He had walked toward the figure as a military commander, assessing an unknown armed presence. He fell before him as a man who understood that the unknown presence was not unknown at all. That what he was encountering was something older and larger than the campaign of Israel, something that had been moving toward Jericho from before Joshua received the command, something that would still be moving when Jericho was a memory and Joshua himself was in the ground. And from the ground, with his face in the dust of the plain outside the city, he asked a different question. What message does my Lord have for his servant? The question had completely changed. 40 seconds earlier, it was, are you for us or for our enemies? A question about alignment, about sides, about the figure's relationship to Joshua's campaign. Now it was, what message does my Lord have for his servant? A question about orders, about the will of the commander, about what Joshua was supposed to do in light of who was standing in front of him. The shift from the first question to the second is the whole of what the commander's answer produced. Joshua stopped being a general seeking an ally and became a servant asking for orders. And the first order was not a battle plan. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Not a war order, a worship order. Before any instruction about the walls or the priests or the trumpets or the 7 days, the commander said, "The ground you are standing on has become holy by the fact that I am standing on it with you. Take off your sandals. Acknowledge what this ground is." Before the morning comes, before the campaign unfolds, before a single order about the actual method of taking the city, acknowledge the holiness of this moment. You are standing where I am standing. The ground between you and the thing you have been sent to take is holy ground, because I am already here. This ground is holy because I am already on it. Let that reach you where you are lying right now. The ground between you and tomorrow, the distance between this night and the morning the commander has already arrived at, is holy ground. Not because you have made it holy, not because your faith has consecrated it, because the commander is already on it. Because before you arrive at tomorrow, the one who commands the army of the Lord has already arrived there. Because the same sequence that ordered Joshua to remove his sandals before the battle is the sequence operating tonight, in the space between your sleeping and your waking. The commander comes first, makes the ground holy by his presence, and then the servant moves into the holy ground to carry out the orders that have already been prepared. Remove what you are wearing from your feet in the way that is available to you tonight. The sandals Joshua removed were the distance he was maintaining between himself and the ground. They were the layer between his feet and the earth. Practical, reasonable, the ordinary thing a person wears to protect themselves from the roughness of what they are walking on. And the commander said, "Remove them. Feel the ground. The ground is not rough tonight. It is holy, and you cannot feel the holiness of the ground through the layer of what you have been wearing to protect yourself from it. The layer you have been wearing tonight is the fear, the planning, the rehearsal of worst cases, the distance between yourself and tomorrow that you have been maintaining in the name of preparedness. All of it is reasonable. All of it is the ordinary thing a person wears to walk toward a difficult morning. And the commander says, "Take it off." Not because tomorrow is not difficult, not because the preparation was wrong, but because you are standing on holy ground and you cannot feel the holiness through the layer. You are on holy ground tonight. The commander is here. Feel the holiness through your feet. Then the word came from the Lord, not from the commander now, but from the Lord directly, in the sequence that makes clear the commander and the Lord are the same presence. "See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands." Past tense. Already. The delivery of Jericho had already happened in the speech of God before a single footstep of the campaign had been taken. The walls were still standing. The gates were still barred. The people inside were still alive and armed. The 7 days had not yet begun. The trumpets had not yet been carried around the perimeter. The shout had not yet been raised. And the Lord said, "I have delivered Jericho into your hands." In the language of God, the morning that had not yet come was already accomplished. The city that appeared impenetrable from the outside was already given. The future that Joshua could not yet see was already completed in the will of the one who commands the morning from before it arrives. I have delivered it. Not I will deliver it if you march correctly. Not I am delivering it, contingent on your faithfulness across the 7 days. I have delivered it. Delivered past tense, the tense of the accomplished, the tense of the thing that is done in God's reckoning before it is visible in human experience. Your tomorrow is already given. Not in a way you can verify tonight. Not in a way that removes the difficulty or eliminates the requirement of the morning, or makes the thing you are walking toward disappear before you encounter it. In the way that Jericho was given before the first day of the march, completed in the reckoning of God while still appearing fully intact from the outside. The walls of your tomorrow still look solid. The gates of it are still shut. The difficulty of it is still real, and it is still waiting. And the commander who has already come says the same word over the ground you are walking toward that he spoke to Joshua on the plain at evening. "See, I have delivered it into your hands." Delivered. Past tense. Already. Now walk forward with me into what came next. The instructions that followed were not what Joshua expected. March around the city once a day for 6 days. 7 priests with trumpets of ram's horns in front of the ark. On the 7th day, march around 7 times. A long blast on the trumpets. The army shouts. The walls collapse. The method was not force of arms or siege engines or battering rams, but the specific obedience of the specific order given by the commander who had already come to the specific battle that had already been won. The method of the victory was already determined. Joshua did not get to choose how Jericho would fall. He only got to choose whether he would follow the orders of the one who had determined it. He chose to follow. And I want you to hear something about those 6 days that the telling of the story often skips past. The 6 days of marching were not the battle. They were the obedience. The army marched around the city in silence except for the trumpets. No shout on the first day. No shout on the second. No shout on the third, 4th or 5th. No visible result. The walls were still standing on the evening of the 6th day, exactly as they had been standing on the evening when Joshua walked toward the city and met the commander with the drawn sword. 6 days of following orders with no visible evidence that the orders were working. 6 days of the people of Jericho watching from the walls as Israel marched silently around them, and nothing happened and went back to camp. 6 days of trusting the word of the commander over the evidence of the walls. This is what tomorrow will require. Not that you know how the walls will come down. Not that you can see the method by which the difficult morning will be resolved. Not that you have arranged the facts into a version of the future that you can live with. Only that you trust the word of the one who said, "I have delivered it before the first morning of the march." The word that was spoken over the accomplished future before the obedience of the present had even begun. The commander has spoken over your tomorrow the same word he spoke over Jericho. It is delivered. The method is not yet visible. The walls may still look solid in the morning when you arrive at them. But the word has been spoken, and the word is past tense, and the one who spoke it is the commander of the army of the Lord who has already come. Not as an ally you asked for, but as the one who arrived ahead of you at the ground you are walking toward. Now stand on the holy ground of this night, and let me tell you what the morning will actually be. The morning will be the first day of the march. Not the 7th day, the day of the walls and the shout and the falling. Not yet. Tomorrow is the first day. You will wake up and the walls will still be standing. The difficulty will still be there. The city will still be shut and the gates will still be barred, and the thing you have been afraid of will still be what it was yesterday. The morning does not begin with the resolution. It begins with the first step of the obedience. And the first step of the obedience is the step you take into a morning that you know, because the commander has told you, is already given. Already delivered. You are not marching toward uncertainty. You are marching toward the 7th day that the commander has already determined. You do not know yet how the walls will come down. Joshua did not know how they would come down. He only had the word of the commander who had already come to the ground, who had already spoken the tense of the accomplished over the future that had not yet arrived. See, I have delivered it into your hands. You are going into a morning that has already been given over. You are marching toward a wall that has already been determined to fall. You are following a commander who arrived at the ground before you did, who has already stood on the plain between your sleeping and your waking, and whose presence has made the distance between tonight and tomorrow holy. Holy the way the plain outside Jericho was holy. Holy not because of what you have done to consecrate it, but because of who is already standing on it. The commander of the army of the Lord has already come. He was not recruited for your campaign. He did not arrive because you prayed the right prayers, or held the right posture of faith, or maintained the right quality of trust across all the nights you have been afraid. He came because the morning you are walking toward is part of a campaign that was set in motion before you knew you would need to face it, and the commander of that campaign arrives at the ground before the army does, which means he was already at the morning before you arrived at the night. He is already there. In the morning you have not yet woken into. In the difficult hour you have been dreading. In the specific room, the specific conversation, the specific outcome that you cannot control. He is already there the way he was already at Jericho, standing on the ground, sword drawn, waiting not for the battle, but for the obedience of the one he had called to march. When you wake tomorrow, he will be there. The ground of your morning is holy ground. The commander has been standing on it since before you were afraid of it. And the word he spoke over it is past tense. Delivered, accomplished, already given in the reckoning of the one who commands the morning from before it arrives. Now lie still on the holy ground of this night. Your sandals are off. The layer that was maintaining the distance between you and the morning is received by the one who asked you to remove it. You have fallen face down, in the way that is available in the quiet of the night. Not in distress, but in the acknowledgement of something larger than the campaign you were running, something older than the difficulty you are facing, something that arrived with a drawn sword on a plain outside a city, and refused the question of sides in favor of the announcement of authority. Neither. But as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. He has come. And the morning that has been sitting on your chests since before you turned off the light, that morning is holy ground, because the commander is already on it, and the word already spoken over it is the past tense of the delivered, and the given and the accomplished. And tomorrow you will take the first step of the march into the morning that has already been won. Not the seventh day yet. Not the walls yet. The first day. But he is already at the seventh day. And he is already back on the plain, standing in the last watch of the night, waiting for you to cross the Jordan that the morning represents. The way he waited for Joshua, the way he always waits at the thresholds of the mornings his people are called to walk through. Sleep now toward the morning. The commander has already come. The ground is holy. The walls will fall in the time and the method that he has determined, and none of that requires you to know how before you wake. It requires only that you rise and march, and that before you rise, you rest on the holy ground of the night, held and surrounded and commanded by the one who does not come as an ally, but as the authority over everything the morning holds. When the fifth movement comes, it will carry you to the moment the dawn begins. And there is something Isaiah knew about that moment, about what it means to wait through the night until the morning comes, and what the morning gives back to those who held on through the long watches. But for now, the commander is here. The ground is holy. The morning is already given. Rest in the fourth watch, beloved. The walls will fall. Isaiah 40, verses 28 to 31. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. A blessing over your sleep. You have been in this night a long time now. You came to it carrying the weight of tomorrow, And the night has held you through the shelter and the hills and the midnight prison and the plain outside the city, where the captain stood with his sword already drawn. The night has done its work. And somewhere in the deep quiet of these hours, whether you are fully asleep or only resting at the edge of it, your body has been receiving what the night was always meant to give. Not answers, not resolutions, not the removed difficulty of the morning, but rest. The rest that does not require the morning to have arrived. The rest that is available inside the night to the one who has handed the morning to the one who holds it. This blessing is for your sleep. Whatever it looks like right now, whether it is deep and still or restless and interrupted, whether your breathing has slowed all the way down, or whether you are somewhere in the half-aware middle of the night where sleep and waking are not entirely distinct, this blessing covers it. You do not need to be sleeping perfectly to receive it. You do not need to have found full peace before the morning to be held in it. The blessing is not conditional on the quality of the rest you have managed. It is spoken over you in the last watch before dawn, in the hour when the night is almost finished and the morning has not yet begun, in the gift of whatever these dark hours have given your body and your mind. Sleep well, beloved. Or rest well, if sleep has moved in and out. The night is almost done. And now, in the last watch, there is one more thing I want to give you before the dawn. The prophet Isaiah was writing to a people who were tired, genuinely, deeply, bone-tiredly exhausted, not from one night of worry, but from years of carrying what they could not put down, years of wondering whether God had forgotten them, years in which the difficulty had outlasted their capacity to believe it would ever end. The exiles in Babylon who first heard these words had watched Jerusalem fall and been taken from their homes and lived under a foreign rule that showed no sign of ending, and they had asked the question that exhausted people ask: does he know? Does he see? Has the way we are walking become hidden from God? Has God stopped attending to what is happening in our lives? The prophet answered their exhaustion with a question. Not a comfort, a question. Do you not know? Have you not heard? These are not rhetorical dismissals. They are genuine questions, the kind that invite the hearer to think again about what they already know, but have forgotten in the wearing down of the long season. Not, of course you know, don't be absurd. More like, you know this. You have heard it. Before you were tired, before the years wore you down to where you are standing now, you heard this. Let me tell you again, in case the hearing of it can reach somewhere that the exhaustion has not yet reached. Do you not know? Have you not heard? And what follows is not encouragement. It is theology, the specific theology that speaks to exhaustion, because exhaustion is not primarily an emotional problem. It is a belief problem. The person who has grown exhausted in the long, difficult season has usually, beneath the tiredness, arrived at a quiet and sometimes unspoken belief that God's capacity is somehow proportional to their own. That because they have grown tired, something in the divine economy is also running low. That because they have stumbled and run out of strength, the resources available to them from heaven have also been depleted by the length of the difficulty and the weight of the years. Isaiah addresses this belief directly. Not gently, directly. The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. Everlasting. This means what it says. Not long-lived, not ancient, not older than anything you can remember. Everlasting. Outside of time entirely, without beginning or end, the kind of existence that does not have a morning in which it started, or an evening toward which it is moving. The Lord is everlasting, which means He does not experience duration the way you do. The years that have worn you down have not worn Him. The night that has felt long to you has not been long to Him. Not because He does not attend to it, but because His relationship to time is not the relationship of a creature inside it, but of the Creator who holds it. Creator of the ends of the earth. Not the center, the ends, the extremities, the farthest reaches of what exists. The places where creation runs out and the void begins, the edges of the known and the unknown, the limits of what any person can see or reach or imagine. He created those, which means there is no frontier of your difficulty, no outer edge of the thing you are facing tomorrow, no far corner of the outcome you are afraid of that lies outside His creative authority. He made the ends of the earth. The ends of your tomorrow are not beyond Him. And then the word that stands alone. He will not grow tired or weary. He will not conditionally, not probably not usually not, will not. The divine capacity does not deplete across the duration of the difficulty. He has not grown tired of attending to what you are facing. He has not grown weary of the length of your night, or the weight of your specific tomorrow, or the number of times you have brought this fear to Him across the weeks and the months in which it has been sitting on your chest. He does not experience the wearing down that you experience. He does not arrive at the threshold of the morning you were afraid of with less resource than He had at the beginning of the season in which the morning became a fear. He will not grow tired. He will not grow weary. And then the word that opens the passage into what the morning will give you. His understanding no one can fathom. No one can fathom it. Not the depth of His comprehension of your situation, not the specific tomorrow, not the complex of relationships and outcomes and possibilities that surrounds it, not the way He has already navigated the morning before you arrived at the night that precedes it, not the calculation He has already made about what the difficult hour requires and what He has already positioned in it. No one can fathom the reach of His understanding. Which means there are dimensions of the morning you are going into that He has already attended to that you do not know are being attended to. There are aspects of tomorrow that His understanding has already addressed that your fathoming cannot reach. You do not know everything that has been prepared. You cannot fathom the full scope of what His unfatigued, everlasting, creation-spanning understanding has already done with the morning you are afraid of. You only need to know that He has not grown tired of it. Now the passage opens wider. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. This is not a principle. This is a practice, the specific activity of the everlasting, unwearied God directed toward a specific kind of recipient. Not the strong, not the already resourced, not the people who arrived at the morning fully equipped and well rested and possessed of everything the day would require. The weary, the weak, the ones who have been going a long time and whose capacity has run out ahead of the demand. These are the specific people to whom He gives strength and to whom He increases power. You qualify tonight. The tiredness you arrived at this night with, the depletion of the season that produced the worry about tomorrow, the wearing down of the months or years in which this kind of morning has been building on the horizon. That tiredness is not a disqualification. It is the qualification. He gives strength to the weary, which means the weariness is not the obstacle to receiving it. The weariness is the condition that makes the receiving possible. You cannot receive strength from Him if you are not in need of it. And the depth of your need tonight, the genuine emptiness of your own resource as you enter the morning, is the precise shape of the gift that is being given. He is giving you strength right now, in the last watch before the morning. Not all at once. Not in a burst that you will feel as a surge of energy when the alarm sounds. In the way that strength is given through sleep, received quietly, invisibly, in the body while the mind is at rest. The strength is being given in the dark, in the way that the body repairs what the day has broken, while the person sleeps without knowing it is happening. By the time the morning comes, the gift will have been given and the receiving will have occurred, and you will not know the full extent of it until you take the first step of the march and find that you can. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. The prophet is widening the frame now, from you specifically to all of human experience. Even those who seem strongest, even the ones for whom the difficulty of tomorrow appears most manageable, even those who come to their hard mornings with more resource than you feel you have tonight. Everyone tires. Everyone stumbles. The stumbling is not the evidence of a particular failure of a particular person with a particular deficit of faith. It is the nature of the creature. It is what it means to be the kind of being that runs out of strength, that has a limit, that can be worn down by the accumulation of what a life requires. You are not uniquely depleted. You are human. And the human condition is the condition to which this promise was spoken. Now the promise itself. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. Hope in the Lord. The Hebrew word is kava, which means to wait, to expect, to look toward with patient anticipation. Not the kind of hope that simply wishes something were different. The kind of hope that has an object, that looks toward a specific source and waits for what that source will give. Those who wait in the Lord, those who have brought their exhaustion to the specific address of the everlasting God who does not grow tired. Those who have spent their night not in trying to manufacture their own strength, but in lying in the shelter and looking toward the hills and making the act of turning toward God in the midnight and lying on the holy ground of the morning they are afraid of, trusting the commander who has already come. That waiting renews. Renews. The word is not refreshes or restores or repairs. Renews. New. The strength that comes to the one who waits in the Lord is not simply the old strength replenished, the original capacity topped off so the tank can run down again at the same rate. It is new strength, the kind that did not exist before the waiting produced it. The night you have spent in this prayer, this long night of shelter and hills and midnight and holy ground, has been the waiting. The kava, that the promise is spoken over. And what the promise gives to the one who waits is not the strength they had before they grew tired. It is something new. Something the night itself has produced. Something that will not behave exactly like their old strength because it did not come from the same source. Your strength for tomorrow will be new. Not manufactured in the night by your own spiritual discipline. Received in the night from the one whose strength does not deplete. Given to you in the last watch before the morning, in the quiet of the sleep-filled hour, in the body while the mind rests. Given the way the night gives everything it gives, quietly, invisibly, so that the receiver only discovers the gift when the morning arrives and the first step of the march is taken and the feet find that they hold. They will soar on wings like eagles. This is the morning image, not the night image. The night was the shelter, the wings as refuge that held you through the dark. This is the morning. Wings as flight, as height, as the movement of the creature that has risen to where the thermals carry it without requiring the constant effort of the smaller birds. The eagle does not flap constantly to stay aloft. It finds the rising air and extends its wings, and the air does the lifting. The soaring is not an exhausting activity. It is what happens when the creature finds the element that carries it. The element that carries you tomorrow is not your own strength. It is the strength that has been renewed through the night, given by the everlasting God who does not grow tired, the strength that is new and not merely replenished. And when you enter the morning on that strength, what you will find is not that you are working harder than before, but that you are being carried differently. The difficult morning will still be there. The walls of Jericho will still be standing when you arrive at them. But the one who marches toward them will be carrying something that was not there when the night began. The new strength of the waited-for morning, the renewed resource of the one who has lain in the shelter and seen the hills and made the act of turning toward God at midnight and stood on the holy ground of the commander's presence. You will soar because the air is different in the morning of the delivered. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Running and walking. The full range of what the day requires. Not just the extraordinary moment of crisis, the sprint into the breach, the peak demand of the difficult hour. The whole day. The ordinary walking of the afternoon after the hard morning is resolved. The steady forward movement through what comes after the crisis and what comes after that. The endurance of the day that the renewed strength is designed to sustain. Not just enough for the thing you are afraid of. Enough for all of it. Run and not grow weary, walk and not be faint. The whole long march of the day that is coming. You will have enough for all of it. Now let me widen the frame one last time before the morning comes. The night you have spent in this prayer is not only yours. Across the world, at this same hour, there are others lying in their own nights with their own hard mornings pressing in. Their Jerichos are different from yours. Different walls, different fears, different specific things that have been sitting on their chests through the dark. But the captain has already come to all of them. The hills were full on every side. The midnight act of turning toward God moved through their walls the same way it moved through Philippi. And the strength being renewed in this last watch before the dawn is being renewed in all of them. In the weary and the weak and the ones who came to bed tonight with more fear than faith, with more worry than peace, with more tomorrow than they felt equipped to face. The everlasting God does not divide his unfailing strength between the many who wait in him. He gives it whole to each. He gives it to you whole tonight, and to the one lying awake across the city, and to the one in a different country who turned off their light hours ago and has been holding the same night in a different language. Whole, unreduced, the full resource of the one who created the ends of the earth and will not grow tired or weary, and whose understanding no one can fathom. The morning is coming to all of them, and to you. It is almost here. In the last minutes of the dark, before the light begins, let everything that the night has given you settle to its rightful place. The shelter has held. The hills are full. The midnight act has moved through the foundations. The commander has already come, and the ground is holy, and the morning has been delivered in past tense by the one who speaks accomplished things over futures not yet visible. And in this last watch, the strength that was depleted when you came to bed is being renewed. not manufactured by your effort, not earned by your faithfulness across the night, but given by the everlasting God to the weary and the weak who waited in him. You waited in him. Through the shelter and the hills and the midnight and the holy ground and this last quiet widening of the frame. You waited in him, and the promise is spoken over everyone who waits. They will renew their strength. They will soar. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Tomorrow you will walk toward the first day of the march, not the seventh. Toward the walls that are still standing and the hard hour that still requires what it requires. And you will walk and not be faint, not because the wall is gone or the difficulty is removed or the morning has been made easier than you feared, but because the strength is new and the commander is already there, and the ground is holy, and you are entering a morning that has already been given over. Walk into it, beloved. The night is done. And when the next night comes, the night after the march, the night after the difficult day, the night after whatever this morning holds, come back. There is more to receive in the long watches of the night. There is more of this kind of prayer, more of the undertold biblical moment, more of the waiting and the sheltering and the hill seeing and the midnight act in the holy ground. The night that has just held you was one night. There will be others. And for every difficult morning that produces a night like this one, there is a word already prepared for the waiting. Come back to the night. It is not only the place where fear leaves. It is the place where the everlasting God gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak and holds the sleeping in the shelter of his presence until the morning. He has already prepared arrives, and the march begins in the walls. In his time, in his method, at his seventh day. Fall. Sleep now. The morning is almost here. The captain has already come. The ground beneath it is holy, and the strength that carries you into it is new. Run and not be weary. Walk and not be faint. The Lord your God goes before you.